It's late night in Munich, Germany, and the luxury brand Mode Creation Munich, known as MCM, is shooting its latest advertising campaign. Popular in the 1980s, the company is making a resurgence as customers embrace its European feel, style, and elegance. While it may be European in name, its owner is not. South Korean businesswoman Sung Ju Kim bought the floundering company in 2005 and turned its $100 million sales into $400 million in just 6 years. It's not her only success story. She also helped introduce high-end Western brands to Asia by licensing Gucci, Yves Saint Laurent and Marks & Spencer's. But it hasn't been an easy ride for the determined 54-year-old who was born into one of South Korea's most privileged families. As a female, she was expected to keep with tradition and marry into a family of similar standing. Instead, she embarked on a career. It was a move that would see her temporarily cut off from her parents and without any financial support. This week on Talk Asia, we're at MCM headquarters in Seoul with Sung Ju Kim, who tells us how she broke all the rules to carve out a successful 20-year career in the fashion industry. So Sung Ju Kim, welcome to Talk Asia. Now, you are known as one of South Korea's most successful businesswomen. What does that mean to you?
Well, I never really pursued success. I just worked hard because I'm very mission-driven, more than money-driven, because I come from a big family. My father's business was one of the biggest energy group called the Daesun Group. Traditionally, women come from big families supposed not to work, only marrying another big family. That's the legacy, how they want to carry on. So I said, why don't I stand up to prove women can do as good as men in this society? That became my first mission. So, that was how I really motivated to start my business and succeed.
Now, you are chief executive of your own company, Sungju, and you are also in charge of MCM. You've taken over this German luxury brand. But when you look back at the beginning, where it all began, how did you get to this point? I mean, how difficult was it?
Early 90s, I started my own company under my name, first name, which is unusual to Sungju Group. And I was the first franchisee for one of many prominent European brands like Gucci, Sonia Rykiel, Yves Saint Laurent, etc. And I was quite successful. And later on, I took an MCM as a licensee. That was early 90s. So we not only produce for Korean market, but also produce for American market. It means that we are very much export-driven business at that time. We made the MCM very successful in Korea until I think when the Asian financial crisis 1998, I think my business was doubling up every year. So we were really pioneer in the luxury business. At the same time, we were really running super kind of job in terms of manufacturing bags and exporting and to American market too. So after the Asian crisis in 1998, I eventually decided to sell Gucci back to Gucci Group, and along with Yves Saint Laurent and also Sonia Rykiel, and then mainly concentrate on MCM.
You bought the company in 2005. Mm-hmm. It was not in a good state when you bought it. Why did you want to?
As you know, out of all these banking crises around the world, now, meanwhile, Europe and America is really suffering, but Asia is really booming town, as you can see, especially China's emergence. So Asia not only taking 2/3 of a global population, but also luxury markets, they probably we take about now 56% of total luxury market. It means that this is place to go for. And so we needed kind of brand name already established instead of study on. So I thought it was, even though MCM that time, after the peak of the success until middle of 90s, it wasn't really brand failure because of the original founder's personal failure. That's what the brand went down. And our business, MCM license business in Korea really went up well. So I thought it was great kind of a opportunity for me to acquire the brand. And so now since we acquired the brand, already grown more than 4 times. So this year we are doing about more than $400 million business. We are already in 30 countries. And China alone, we plan to open about 100 stores next 5 years.
Now, a lot of the very big, successful luxury brands are European, or they're Western, and you've given it the Asian twist. You've been able to take over the franchise, the company, and make it better. Is it time for Asian companies or Korean companies to be making such an impact in US and Europe? These are still European brands that you're giving the Asian twist to.
If you really want to be true luxury, like where we are in, like Gucci, Louis Vuitton, MCM, and all these Prada, that level is still not Asia, I must say. So it's still also very European dominate also. But when you come middle market, middle-low market, because a lot production base is out of Asia, and also West Coast America, for instance, is very also culturally friendly place for Asian community. That's why they can really create big volume scale business. They could even pursue around the United States. Now even they're coming out to Asia very successfully.
Now, another big name that you won franchise for was Marks and Spencer's. You were up against Korea's largest conglomerate, Samsung.
That's right.
And you were a very small company at this point. How did you win that?
Well, that was an interesting story, too. I think the three things they said eventually. I think one was they said transparency. We are very few, very rare company kept, no bribing, no tax cheating, something really clean hand policy, which is very unusual. That's what they liked about. The second was also specialization, but we are only involved in fashion with a very much specialization. Third issue was culture issue. They say it was interesting. They said, well, when they got these big kind of corporation, boardroom, glitzy and really nice, and about 10 guys sitting with the top guys in the middle there, or like a stone face, or scribbling something, only the top guys speak. And so that's feeling a very, how can I say, tight, feeling. It's a lot cultural distant feeling. But when they walked into my office, they even could not recognize who was the chairperson or the CEO, because I was strolling around everywhere. It was very kind of horizontal and very open kind of of the atmosphere. They said this is a company they want to work with.
Coming up, family friction. Sung Joo Kim explains why her parents disowned her for almost 4 years.
Now, if we can look at your background a little bit, you're from a very affluent family, and your father was a self-made business tycoon. He had 25 companies, but he was very traditional. And
that's right.
At which point did you realize that as his daughter, you would not be treated the same way as his sons?
I have 3 brothers and 2 other sisters. I'm youngest among 6. Even though I come from one of the biggest family, but automatically brothers inherit father's multi-billion-dollar empire, and girls, we just supposed to marry the big family, as I said, just carrying tradition. And so I would say even I did not inherit my father's business, but I inherited the entrepreneur kind of DNA. So. So father, it's also rather funny, before he passed away about over 10 years ago, he really confessed to me that even though you've been always honest to me, therefore we have to fight sometimes, because I was so brave to stand up for anything wrongdoings, like he did something against my mother. My other siblings were afraid to speak up, but I did, because I know I'm not going to inherit much, but I loved him, and also I have to say truth to him, because that's the way he taught me. But eventually he said that, why is youngest daughter inherit most of my business blood, not your brothers? And he was really feeling bad about it. But I told father, don't worry, father, eventually I'll be as good, or could be even better. So I don't think he saw my success this time, but I'm sure he believed in my capacity. Yeah.
Do you think he was proud of you?
I think so, from the heaven. But I remember at the beginning, 1997, when the World Economic Forum, Davos Forum, chose me as one of the global leaders for tomorrow. The Mail Daily newspaper group, the biggest economic newspaper, had a full-page article about me with a big picture. I know if my father looked at it, he would have a heart attack. So I had to call him very early in the morning. Father, I don't know why, but the World Economic Forum chose me, and you're going to see my big picture in the newspaper. Father said, what did you do? I said, I don't know. He said, you must do something wrong to let them think you are that big or great, So he said, you know yourself, and don't get misunderstanding. He hung up. He got very mad at me. So that was the way he see women.
Now, what was expected of you when you were younger was to marry.
Yeah.
And not to be in business.
That's right.
But you wanted to go and study in the United States. Right. How did you convince your father?
Well, that was another funny story. When after graduating from Yonsei University, which is a Korean university, I was accepted to Amherst College, and father said, no way, unless you marry your husband, follow him is fine, but not by yourself. So, I started to convince him. I did everything, but he said no way. So he didn't want to even let me leave the country. So what should I do? So what eventually I did was I invite all the Amherst graduates. That time, luckily we had some prominent ministers and cabinet member, or even Japanese ambassador Roger Snobe in Korea. My father has great respect toward him. Or Amherst graduates. I invite them all to my father's house. So I told father they are coming for dinner. He didn't believe. He said, those dignitaries doesn't come with this little girl's invitation. So he completely forgot. So that evening, I invite them and, I had a nice dinner, waiting. Around 10:30, he showed up. He was shocked to death because everybody was in the house waiting for him. He was really, really embarrassed. Eventually, he sat down in the living room, and about 20 people around there. And at that time, the president of Amherst, College Association, he said, well, Chairman Kim, seems like your daughter got accepted to Amherst, which is great college, even you never heard about it. Secondly, we see great potential in your daughter. Would you allow her to go? And everybody looking at him, he said, He said, he just nodded. He couldn't say yes. He just nodded. Next day I left. So it was amazing, yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
When you were actually in the States, though, you said that you married your sweetheart from college.
Yeah.
But of course he was non-Korean.
Yeah.
What was the issue with that?
Well, that was the biggest issue. As you know, Korean people in general, we are very homogeneous kind of a group of people. Even out of 5,000 years of Korean history, we've been invaded so many times, more than probably 850 times small and big war. We never invade outside, always invaded because of geopolitical location. So people, first it's a miracle that these Korean people survived as it is. And therefore they have a great kind of, not animosity, kind of protectionist kind of mindsetting. So they are kind to outsiders, but mixing the blood, they feel it's a shame. Therefore, especially family come from kind of high status, they feel we should keep the pure blood. So when I met my sweetheart in college, not Amherst, in fact, when I was at Harvard briefly after Amherst, and it was like kind-looking boy, and I know if I don't marry him, I'll be taken away by my parents. So I had to escape, so I convinced that poor chap to get married soon, which we did. And I called my parents, I fixed my marriage, so don't worry about the arranged marriage. They were speechless. Next day, they pulled my name out of the family tree. And they stopped sending any single dollar. It means I was penniless. So that's why I had to drop out from college, because he was still pursuing his degree, and he come from humble background. So one person got the secretary, which I did, and that's why I eventually got the job at Bloomingdale's in New York. So I was commuting between Boston and Bloomingdale's for a while to earn money, but it was a great experience.
So what was your first job like at Bloomingdale's?
Well, I was lucky. I mean, even though I have no fashion background, never started fashion, never even worked in fashion industry. Lucky at that time was they were doing a lot of those country promotion, Japan promotion, China promotion, Indian promotion. So either it was middle of the 80s, the time Korean car industry like Hyundai and electronic like LG and Samsung start to sell in America. And also that was the time also announced that Seoul will host 1988 Olympic Games. So suddenly, and also maybe one more thing is Korea was still one of the biggest textile exporting country before China emerged. So they had a kind of curiosity and things about what's going in Korea. Suddenly, a very fast-growing economy. So they decided to do a Korea project. But they were looking for a kind of project manager for that. So suddenly when I appeared, even though the Bloomingdale chairman, he had a little bit suspicious eyes about me, but he saw my courage. So that's the way I started my fashion business.
But this time must have been very difficult for you, not only because you're learning a new industry,
Yeah.
but you had been cut off from your family. I mean,
That's right.
how long was it before anyone spoke
About
to you?
like 4 years. Nobody spoke with me. No any single dollar came to me. I felt like I was lost in the middle of an orbit. You know, it's like a orbit. You're like going around as a satellite kind of a star, but you just lost in the black hole. That's what I felt. I think it wasn't really emotional. It wasn't really economical difficulties. I think it's emotional trauma.
Coming up, Sungju Kim takes us on a special tour of MCM's design studio in Seoul.
So this is our design room. You can see, Miss Guan is heading for this team, and a lot of, we have actually two big design area. One is in Europe, of course. In Europe, we have actually our creative director is in Berlin, and also we have a small also Milan-based also our design and also production team, and New York also we have some designers working for us too. And since you are here in Seoul, so you visit our headquarters design team, so we have more than 20 team and 10 people working here. So they are doing really day and night. They're working hard. And here another team. Hello, 안녕하세요, Miss Park. There also another team. They also looking up the gold line and a lot of collaboration with the overseas designers. We have like 600 employees all total in my company. Obviously about 15 different nationalities too, because we have a European offices, New York office, and also Chinese office and Hong Kong office, things like that. But out of 600, we have 500 women. Wow. And among top directors, absolute majority are women. So this is a great way to prove to our society, hey, you guys, even women run not bad. We are very successful in global scale too.
Now, you're seen as a role model for many women in Korea across the world, and also for many entrepreneurs. But who was the person that you looked up to when you needed inspiration?
Well, not necessarily I really followed the women entrepreneurs role model, because first in Korea not many exist. Maybe I'm one of very first one in that level. As a women concerned, I was really always admiring people like who serve the society out of love. And also my mother, even she was a wife of a biggest tycoon in Korea, she was always humble and also always shared a lot of resources with their neighbors around, which I complained a lot. Why mom doesn't go around with fancy clothing and like tie ladies and going parties and playing golf around? But meanwhile, she really went out there to serve like orphans and many other good, kind of social cause works. And eventually I learned out of a complaint, so I'm doing something similar. So I must say my true role model is my mother. I hope my daughter say the same thing to me.
Sure they will. Now, the business culture in Korea, though, is still a very male-dominated arena. Mm-hmm. Do you still come up against this? Do you still have to fight this?
20 years ago when I started business, I remember many of these like board meetings or even dinners I go out, I was only women and youngest often, and only other women in the room is bringing the tea, serve, and leave. So male counterparts obviously was not really pleased to see me in that level. I must say in Korea, changed a lot, and even government has like 1/3 of bureaucrats now compulsory hiring women, which makes government more transparent and more efficient now. But also many foreign invested kind of entities in Korea, primarily like a banking system, also allowed women to promote middle management, top management. But still we are quite behind, in a sense, the women entrepreneurship, because maybe lack of resources or still a lot of obstacles as a woman, as a mother, in the working mother like that. But also if you look at many major Korean conglomerates, unfortunately, they don't have many women top management. That's, I think, still lacking there.
I have an interesting quote here. I'm actually going to quote you back to you. This is what I read. You said, "You can't ignore half of the population's brain power, so be very careful. Mm-hmm. Unless you listen to what women want, you will fail." What do women want?
Well, simple. What women want. That's interesting. First of all, the little more socioeconomic background. Now, if you look at who are consumers, I think 70-80% of consumers, at least in Korea, they are women. They determine from their children's education to even buying and selling their houses and what car they should buy. Even that means they influence their husband too. It means they take absolute kind of a purchasing power. So what women want, I think I would say, women, I think, go now more value system. And also it means that it's not just expensive or something ostentatious, but what value that product gives to us. Another thing I would say also even deeper, meaning that those companies who produce, it's not just only glitzy, very superficial marketing, try to attract consumers to buy more, but what kind of spirit the company carries. If I have choice to choose it here and that another product, if I look at the company behind, which is really practicing corporate social responsibility, really care for society, I would definitely select that product because as a women, I think, as I said, instead of just looking at our own self, we are looking at our well-being of our family and well-being of our community. That's why we carry a slightly different value system. So that's what women want.
Now, you've come a tremendous way and you have gained an awful lot throughout your career. What sort of advice can you give to other entrepreneurs who want to become the next you?
Okay, just simply one, I think really for me, I would advise really, I think is they should be mission driven. What value they really adding up to your society out of your business instead of how big business I want to make. Because if you just pursue money and success, you're caught up by that. You can be easily tempted by corruptions. But just how can you add up some value to your society? Then eventually you gain everything, And another thing is, obviously, business is not easy. Really, for me, every morning when I walk in my office, I know automatically there will be many problems waiting for me. But for me, just even those obstacles, frustration, stress is adding up. But not to lose the long-term perspective, then I know how to wisely avoid or to overcome these problems. So that's actually the advice from my father. Never lose the long-term perspective. And also self-discipline. Before you control over others, you got to know how to control yourself. So especially as a women entrepreneur, because the biggest forte could be emotion, but the weakest is emotion too. So when we are emotional being, without discipline that could be the worst enemy to yourself. But with the discipline, as I said, emotional intelligence can be the biggest forte.
Sung Joo Kim, thank you for joining us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.